Oh boy. All right. It has been another one of them days. Good heck. All right, so. Wow. We have some apologistics to continue with. I have no idea where we were or what's going on with this. It's fine. Okay. That works, I suppose. Turnabout Succession, the Artful Forger. Right. We left off. Were we in the middle of court? Yeah, we were just about to start on a new testimony from the guy. I'm not exactly sure I'm going to remember we had the voice up, but we'll figure out a thing. It's fine. All right. Okay. Actually, it took a bit of work to get a thumbs up on the interview. Reporter leverages story, gets his interview, end quote. The story concerned a certain case from 7 years ago. That red envelope probably has something to do with it. Say what you will, but Drew's talent was without compare.
So you threatened to go to press with this story. That's how you got your interview? Blackmail?
Well, yes. I mean, no. No. It wasn't exactly black. I'm not.
Something wrong, Mr. Brushel?
Look. This is my story, my tidbit. Journalist info is livelihood, end quote.
I see.
While you have me chatting away in here, what's going on out there? What if some Wally Wordsworth or Sally Scooper gets wind of my story? They could be going to press while I'm going to waste.
The court feels your pain, Mr. Brushel. Mr. Justice, let's pick up the pace.
A certain case? 7 years ago? Wait, 7 years ago? Cross-examination. The scent of a story. Actually, it took a bit of work to get a thumbs up on the interview. Reporter left his story, gets his interview, end quote. The story concerned a certain case from 7 years ago. That red envelope probably had something to do with it. Say what you will, but Drew's talent was without compare. Okay, all right, we were going to press that, weren't we, of course. We might also need to perceive things, which is interesting. This is the perception round. This is the bark. That too. Anyway, okay, we're gonna press first, and I'm gonna stop paging back and forth between all this bark. Actually, it took a bit of work to get a thumbs up on the interview. The victim, Drew Misham, had an aversion to reporters? Boy, I guess. Not even my considerable charms did much for him. Until I finally got my thumbs up, that is. Maybe you can elaborate on that a bit for us? Reporter leverages story, gets his interview, end quote. Exactly what sort of story was this? Oh, little one, like I said. Nothing more, nothing less, nothing in between, end quote. I might have suggested I had a lead on this particular story, but I didn't threaten or cajole or nothing, honest. So, suggestion was enough to get an interview? Mr. Mission must have really wanted to keep it under wraps. The story concerned a certain case from 7 years ago. A certain case? 7 years ago? Tell us, what case? Let me state one thing, Mr. Attorney. You could quote me on this. I can't talk about that case. Why not? It's about journalistic pride and staunchness and credibility and connections. Journalists reveal sources only over his dead body, end quote. So what'll it be? Gonna strangle me? Dead men don't tell tales, Mr. Attorney. He sounds pretty determined not to talk. Our chances of breaking his will aren't looking good. That red envelope probably had something to do with it. Hold it! On the one hand, we have your story, and on the other, this letter. What makes you think the two are related? Oh, I was just saying it's possible. Call it reporter's intuition, end quote. Hey, I say a lot of things. You gonna pick all of them apart? Be my guest. You bet I will. All of them? No, just the incredibly suspicious ones. No, all of them.
I see. Anything else to add about Mr. Misham?
Say what you will, but Drew's talent was without compare. Hold it! Just how amazing was Mr. Misham's talent? Huh? Hoo-wee, boy! I mean, hey, he's a star. Man, a star. Oh, his brush is like a great undulating river across the canvas. Oh, and his paint lights up studio like sun, end quote. This guy is full of wacky gestures. But that one just now is wackier than usual. He looks kind of nervous to me, Apollo. Definitely. I'm sensing something different than before here. Maybe it's time to bring out you-know-what. That testimony left a bad taste in my mouth. It all makes sense. Nothing jumps out as ridiculous. I wonder what this story he's talking about is. It must have been good to get an interview with a famous recluse like that. Something powerful enough to drag Drew Misham out of hiding. I wonder. Maybe it had something to do with Mr. Misham's art? Yeah, I think he knows about the forging, because for us to focus on him being a great talent when maybe he wasn't? Let's perceive that. Zoom. Something about this teeth and brush. Drew's talent was without compare. I mean, you feel like that's where it would be. No? Is it in the eyes? No? Does the pen sploot with lying fluid? Where's the rest of this guy? I don't think anything else would be... He doesn't have a weird elbow, does he? Okay, maybe it's not here. Pass. We'll try the other one then. 7 years ago. Because it's the one where they also really hint at. Story concerned a certain case from 7 years ago. No? No. It also isn't necessarily on those parts. Which, like, the envelope was also suspicious. Now what's he gonna do? Red envelope. Probably had something to do with it. Where is the rest of him? Does he have arms? I don't know if it is. Drew's talent was without compare. Like, these are the only spots where he does the toothbrush thing. Work. Leverages story, huh? What is he leveraging? You gotta tell me. Don't make me do shenanigans. Heck. I don't even have that open. Like, there's gotta be some kind of shenanigan about this, because this is... Wait. Maybe I can just present counter-evidence. If we've proved he's a forger, how do we show the forgery? Like, just showing... Presumably there's something I show. One of these pictures. Ah. Okay, so there is something to perceive on here. I'm just bad at perceiving. Yeah. Do that again. Say what you will, but Drew's talent...
Gotcha!
Talent, yeah. You don't believe in the talent. That was the thing you all put in. Sweat much, Mr. Brushel? Yeah, well. A man can't help his glands, you know. It's more than that. When Mr. Misham's talent was mentioned, you suddenly began to sweat buckets. Ah! You're hiding something about his talent. What? That's ridiculous. Evidence time. Let's show our Mr. Misham's true talent, buddy. Just so happens I have evidence showing that talent mentioned that letter. I mean, presumably this one? Question mark? None of these actually say on the thing that it is forgery.
Take that!
I don't think... I can't help but wonder what the court is supposed to conclude from this evidence. Oh. Other than that, you've made a horrible mistake. Man burns bridge, forgets to cross first, end quote. Let's try that again. All I have to do is reveal what Mr. Misham really was. It shouldn't be so hard, right? It shouldn't. It shouldn't. Do I show the other picture? I do show the other picture, okay.
Take that!
This painting was found in Mr. Misham's studio. There are two problems with this painting. first is, it wasn't painted by Mr. Mitchell. The second is that there was another painting in the studio, which looked exactly like this one, except it was only half done. Then we have a letter discussing a payment of $100,000, which suggests a certain business operation. The business of making forgeries. Arr! That face. Do not do that face. Face is wrong. That is all, Your Honor. Everyone, please, everyone. Can we keep this private, please? This is my story, my scoop. The skeleton is rubber.
Forgery. Well, that's a serious crime.
Drew Misham is known as an artist these days, but there were rumors he dabbled in another kind of art until a few years back.
Another art meaning furry porn? Forgery?
Drew Misham was talented, all right. Talented at making precise, detailed fakes. A fact that certain criminal elements were quick to discover. Criminal elements? What? You can't seriously be talking about... Exactly! I'm talking about forging evidence. The rumors started circulating 7 years ago.
So, 7 years ago? So, are we to understand that this letter, this payment of $100,000 was for...
Exactly! Forged evidence, net tidy profit, end quote.
Order, order, order. Why, it's like our victim was living a double life.
Ah, this is my chance. So the victim had ties to the criminal world, right? He could have had plenty of enemies we know nothing about.
Objection!
This is my first time hearing about this criminal world. We certainly found no criminal connections when we conducted our investigation.
Objection!
How do you explain all this money? You have to admit there's a possibility of some illegal activity here.
Objection!
But there is no proof tying this letter to our case. Huh. Our case was and remains simple from the beginning. Only the defendant could have poisoned that mug that night. And you, of course. Hey! The only thing I poison is my pen when I'm writing reviews.
Mr. Brushel, your testimony to this point has been quite unreliable. It doesn't speak well of your reporting acumen.
What are you talking about? My journalism is rock solid. Journalism so solid you could stand an elephant on it, end quote.
In any case, let's hear a summarized recap of your testimony. If we can ascertain the situation in that studio from the recap, the trial is over.
Apollo, what's he talking about? Cross-examination showed Mr. Brushel didn't have reason or means to poison it. As long as there's no other suspects. The killer had to be Vera, that's what. This next testimony is our last chance.
Mr. Brushel, your testimony, please.
Witness testimony. The interview. A recap. The only other person in the studio that night was the defendant. It was Vera who poured the coffee. She's admitted as much herself. The only thing that touched Drew's lips during the interview was that mug. And nothing left that studio after he died. Nothing. Clearly, the only one who could have poisoned him was his daughter. A nice testimony. Clear, succinct, and without room for doubt. Oh, shucks. You really think so?
I believe this clarifies the situation that night. Very well, Mr. Justice. You may begin your final cross-examination.
Right. I still have one trump card left to play. I won't let this trial end until I use it. Cross-examination.
The interview, a recap. The only other person in the studio that night was the defendant.
Hold it!
But that doesn't prove Vera poisoned it.
Objection!
How many times have we heard of that one, Herr Forehead? The poison reached its victim via that coffee mug. And from where did that coffee come, Not to beat a dead horse again and again, but perhaps you could fill us in? I'm on it! You need a horse beat? I'm your man. It was Vera who poured the coffee. She's admitted as much herself.
Hold it!
And you witnessed her pouring the coffee? Of course, I didn't witness it when she came in with that tray. The coffee was already poured and is steaming. Let us not forget the defendant has admitted to pouring the coffee herself. I heard her statement. I poured, I served, and I killed. What? That last part was just a little joke. I don't think I'm going to get anywhere with this coffee mug. I need to find another weak spot in this case. The only thing that touched Drew's lips during the interview was that mug.
Hold it!
What a weird thing to mention. You're sure about that? Like, maybe he was, sealing an envelope? Well, to be really, really precise, I was busy gobbling mint candies the whole time. Those candies might have been poisoned. Yet, at the time of the autopsy, no fresh fragrance of mint filled the room. And no mint residue was found. It was a long shot anyway. Don't tell me you're still trying to prove this. You think the victim ate, drank, or otherwise ingested something other than coffee? Well, Mr. Justice, if you have some proof... Possibility is there. I can feel it. Just maybe not prove it. Not yet. The possibility isn't going to cut it. Not now. Mr. Misham ingested that poison by a root other than that coffee. I can't prove it, but I'm super suspicious of this envelope. Super. But I can't go and look at it. The enclosed stamp? Wait. The enclosed stamp that would perhaps sit in a frame measuring 2 inches by 2 inches? That one person might lick and then stick to a letter? Bark, 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 bark? I don't think I can prove it, but I know that I have an idea that that's what that is. It can't be proven. I do believe our little forehead is growing up. Pity. We like the rash, youthful forehead best. Another hole in this case and he's plugging before I can prove anything. But first things first, I better uncover a weak spot before I try to strike again. On with the cross-examination. Okay, so it was the middle one that I can change, or that I'll check once I know a little bit more. And nothing left that studio after he died. Nothing.
Hold it!
Not one thing? You're sure? Yep, sure can be. Well, with one exception. One exception? What? Journalist Spock Russell does interview. Leave studio. End quote. Come on. It's a joke, get it? Not funny, I know, but still. Did something leave the studio that night? Why does that sound familiar? Where have I heard something like that before? Now that we've proven our witness is a comedian of sorts, I'd like to turn to our defense attorney before returning to the testimony. Do you have any idea what, if anything, might have left the studio that night? Just one thing. A letter, perhaps?
I think one thing might very well have left the studio that night, actually. A certain something that has vanished from the crime scene.
By which you mean something other than our witness?
Of course.
Don't tell me. Vera Mission?
Believe me, any comic relief I may provide is entirely unintentional.
Then let's see what you've got for us, Mr. Justice.
Well, this thing wasn't at the scene of the crime, so I can't show it. But I do have evidence that shows how it could have been taken from the scene. Well, heck. The mailbox is evidence of how it could have been taken.
Take that!
This is the only link between that studio and the outside world.
A letterbox?
What did Mr. Brushel just tell us? When he entered the studio on the night of the murder, the victim had just finished writing a letter.
Yeah, I said that. And yeah, it was true.
Furthermore, you went on to tell us that he put the letter in a yellow envelope and put it in the letterbox.
Did he? Did he say the letterbox? I thought he hid it in the desk, and that was the whole bark, bark, bark. Bark, 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 bark. Ah.
But that very same letterbox was empty. In other words, that night, the yellow envelope disappeared.
Objection!
Yes, intriguing. So an envelope has disappeared from the scene of the crime. Of course, this changes nothing.
Huh?
He has a point, Mr. Justice. What we're trying to figure out here is how the poison got into Mr. Mission. Is it really important that this envelope the witness says he saw disappeared?
Well, if it did disappear, then something did leave the studio that night. That seems very important to me.
Very well then, the witness will add this to his testimony. You got it! I still think this fails to change anything, Herr Forehead.
I wouldn't be so sure. The letter disappeared from the crime scene that night. This is exactly the opening I've been looking for.
The letter was put in the post from the studio, but I hardly think that matters.
Hold it!
Nothing could be more serious than an envelope disappearing from that studio. And you were hiding that fact from us.
Yes, well, actually, wait, why would he know what isn't in the mailbox? I don't argue the possibility that a letter disappeared from that studio. But, Herr Forehead, isn't there a much more serious question before us?
Right, how Mr. Mission was poisoned, I know. But Mr. Brushel's testimony has changed, which means the facts of the case have too. And why what he's told us means something entirely different now, I'm starting to think. Let's keep thinking, Apollo.
Clearly, the only one who could have poisoned him was his daughter.
Hold it!
You say clearly as though it were obvious. But this claim that the defendant poisoned the victim is merely conjecture.
Ah, yes, well, you see, in my business, it's all about making the most ridiculous things sound right. A bad habit, I know. Yes, well, actually, I guess it's more a case of ridiculous journalist sounds wrong, end quote. The court is forced to agree with you. Please refrain from wild conjecture. Understood loud and clear.
If only I could believe that.
All about spin, yeah. It's like you can tell all the facts you like, but then you can tell a story about those facts that'll say anything else.
What do you think, Apollo? Everything he's saying seems so not flawed. Oh, well, that's kind of what you want from a testimony, really. I need to keep my eye on what matters. How and why was Drew Mission killed? If Vera poured the coffee, that's not going to change. But if that coffee didn't kill him, I need to find what did and prove it.
Okay, so how am I going to show this as a postage stamp? with deadly poison applied. Oh, I guess we just show this. Sign the papers and send with the enclosed stamp. Maybe. Alright, so we're gonna press on this one. We're gonna show the red envelope. You sure about that? Well, to be really, really precise, I was busy gobbling mint candies the whole time. One of those candies might have been poisoned.
Objection!
Yet at the time of the autopsy, no fresh fragrance of mint filled the room, and no mint residue was found. It was a long shot anyway. Don't tell me you're still trying to prove this. You think the victim ate, drank, or otherwise ingested something other than coffee? Well, Mr. Justice, if you have some proof... Possibility is there, I can feel it. Just maybe not prove it, not yet. Possibility isn't going to cut it, not now. Mr. Misham ingested that poison by a root other than that coffee. I can prove it. Proof is possible. Here goes nothing. You do understand what we need, yeah? Proof, have forehead, not possibilities. Of course. And Prosecutor Gavin, I hope you understand. I'm ready to give you that proof. What did you say? I'm gonna hit save because shenanigans. It's the worst place to save because I'm probably locked in here if I'm wrong and can't do it yet, but you know. What did you say? I have proof of the disappearing envelope. I saw him writing a letter, I did. Which was picked up by the mailman, I assume? Of course, which means that envelope had a stamp on it. A stamp? Ah. As we all know, stamps come with dried glue on the back. In order to use the glue, you have to wet it by licking the stamp.
Objection!
No one worth talking to actually licks stamps in this day and age. Yeah, in modern day, we've moved on to self-adhesive.
Objection!
The sticky stuff. Even if you wanted to talk to him, you couldn't. He's dead after all.
Objection!
What? Okay, so he licked the stamp. But wait. What was the connection with what he said to... No one worth talking to. Oh, yeah, because no one... Oh, that's what he's talking about. No one worth talking to. But no, you couldn't talk to him anyway. Bark. Okay, so he licked the stamp. But wait. How does that explain the atroquinine on the rim of the coffee mug?
Objection!
If you lick the back of a poisoned stamp, the poison would get on his tongue, yes? What would then happen if he put the coffee mug to his mouth, Those traces on the mug weren't the killer's doing. It was the other way around. What? The coffee mug didn't poison Mr. Misham. Mr. Misham poisoned the coffee mug himself. Order. But that doesn't... does it? Recall if you would. Atroquinine is a slow-acting poison, yes? The poison entered his body when he put the stamp on that envelope. But his time wasn't up until the very moment he touched his lips to that cup of joe. You have something to add, Mr. Brushel? Uh-oh. His nose is picking up another scent. As I believe I mentioned earlier. Well, that's the thing, see. After he put his letter in that envelope, Mr. Misham sat there searching his desk drawer for something. Yes, a stamp. A so-called postage stamp, end quote. But you know, I don't seem to remember ever finding one. Maybe he just run out. Incidentally, we searched the desk drawer at the scene of the crime. There were no stamps. Not a single one. That does pose a problem. How will you prove that the stamp was coated with poison?
Actually, I'm glad no other stamps were found. It makes proving the stamp he used was poison impossible.
Good show, good show. You can't even prove there was a stamp at the scene in the first place. Well, let's hear what the defense has to say anyway. Where's your evidence that proves the existence of this poison stamp? That's this.
Take that!
Yes? Well, that certainly is a cute little frame. And by little, I mean really little.
It was on the victim's desk, Your Honor. Quite empty, as you can see for yourself.
I noticed that too during my inspection. So what?
Apparently you weren't as observant as you should have been. You see, when you saw this frame, it was missing something quite important.
Missing something?
Yes. A pale bluish stain on the inside of the frame. Atroquinine residue.
What? Why wasn't I told about this?
The frame was only 2 inches square. The face of the frame was even smaller. Maybe an inch wide at most.
You aren't saying...
Oh, but I am. Tell me, what fits in such a small frame? A commemorative stamp, perhaps?
Order, order, order. The poison stamp was in this frame. Impossible. Prosecutor Gavin, why would he put something like that on his desk? Don't tell me he had it there so he could commit suicide if the mood struck. You know, can I say something? I had a thought, see? What, Mr. Brushland? Please stop jittering around like that. The victim is a forger, right? There's a lot of money in that line of work. Forger forges friends and makes enemies too, end quote.
So the poison stamp might have been a murder weapon aimed at him.
Objection!
Oh, rich. That's rich. Leave the ridiculous flights of fancy to the Gaviners' song lyrics, please.
Finally, something we agree on.
The stamp was a murder weapon? Nonsense. Murder is a simple business. Who would go to such lengths? No one.
Oh, I disagree.
Come again?
Recall, if you would, the victim's reclusive lifestyle.
Loving his product placement.
Drew Misham hid from the world. He avoided meetings. His only contact with the outside world was the mail.
The mail?
Now, if you wanted to kill someone you couldn't meet, but you knew read letters, a stamp would be the perfect weapon.
Ridiculous. Where's your proof? I want proof. Show us evidence that this poison stamp was sent to him as a murder weapon. That's the red envelope.
I might not have evidence, per se, but things are finally starting to come together. What is it, Apollo? Your fists are trembling. I think I know what happened. I can't believe it, but I can see it. I think I know how Mr. Misha was killed.
Well, fill us in, Mr. Justice.
A certain piece of evidence points to the truth, Your Honor. I can show you how someone with the intent to kill sent Mr. Misha the stamp of death.
Take that!
Isn't this the envelope? The one from 7 years ago?
Think about the text of the letter again. There were 2 pages in the envelope. This is page 1. And this is page 2. I want to draw your attention to one phrase in particular. Send in the enclosed envelope with the enclosed stamp within 3 days. The enclosed stamp, Your Honor. Ah. In other words, if I have this straight, the stamp, poison on the stamp, lick, lick, gasp, end quote. Now, what if he had done exactly as the letter asked? He would sign the document, put it in the envelope, and put the stamp on it, right? Then he would put it in his letterbox. 15 minutes wouldn't have elapsed between affixing the stamp and mailing the letter. But the clock started ticking. When the time came, he drew his last breath. And the murder weapon would be taken away from the scene.
Quite conveniently, thanks to the postal system. Such a splendid imagination you have, Herr Forehead. Let me confirm one thing with you, if I might. So, this poisoned stamp was inside this envelope from 7 years ago, yeah? Is that what you'd have us believe? Really?
Well, it is a little bit of a stretch, but there's a possibility.
Yes, a very small possibility. How small, I wonder? A poisoned stamp in this envelope. A stamp that then became the murder weapon. How do you intend to prove this seeming coincidence?
Well, it was 7 years ago, and we don't even know who sent that letter.
And your answer is silence. I see. Very well, I move to...
This is Phoenix. It's not nice to pick on the Fräulein Clavier. Huh? Oh! Oh! Ah, Emma! It was brother and then it wasn't? Heck. Ah, Emma. Well, like my Christoph Gavin impression? Did I sound like him? Don't quit your day job.
Don't you have a crime scene to be looking after, Fräulein Detective? Someone had to come dig you all out of the mess you're making of this case.
Mess.
You know, none of this would happen if you just trusted in science a little more. You can find out if that stamp was in that envelope easy. Care to explain yourself, Fräulein Detective?
Learn me all you want, but science is on my side.
It's all in the residue, right?
That's right. The poison detection spray.
Produce the red envelope at once. You can open it on the authority of the court. Spray detection reagent. Oh boy. 1 second here.
Mr. J. Mission, I've deposited $100,000 in the designated account.
Please send the receipt once you've confirmed the transfer. This is not, encouraging! Wait, we stop the spray and then continue, right? No? Ah, there we go. Okay. Well, would you look at that? No mistaking it. That's atroquinine residue. I don't believe it. A murder weapon from the past. Now, 7 years later, it bears its fangs at last.
Objection!
Absolutely outrageous. Tell me why. Why didn't this murder take place 7 years ago? Well, there's one possibility. Maybe Mr. Mission figured it out.
Figured what out?
He realized that the person who sent that letter wanted him dead. So he sent his reply with a different stamp.
And put his decisive evidence in a frame? Ah, you're still here?
Can I make a statement here on the record? I, Spock, Razor-Tooth Brussels, claim this scoop is mine. Drew Mission killed in cold blood. By sender of 7-year-old letter, end quote. No, maybe something more succinct. Star falls after 7-year delay, end quote.
Order, order, order. I see no room for further argument here. Though I admit this is all coming as quite a shock. To think that the murder weapon reached his mouth after 7 years. Stamp his ticket straight to afterlife, end quote.
Uh-oh. I think the witness is a bad influence on our judge.
I see no need for further debate on this matter. The sender of that letter 7 years ago could hardly have been our defendant.
Apollo? I think we just won.
Very well. This court finds a defendant.
Objection!
Is this the bright future of our legal system?
Prosecutor Gavin?
A ticket to the afterlife from 7 years ago. Tickets for Gaviner's shows are invalid after 2 weeks.
But it doesn't make sense any other way.
It boggles my mind that so many people haven't noticed this. There's a fatal contradiction in Hale Forehead's claim. A contradiction? A poison stamp was placed in this envelope 7 years ago, whereupon it was framed until now. If that's the case, then why would Drew Misham have done what he did? Emma explained that. He must have realized he was poisoned. Or, he made $100,000 off a piece of art. It's like, this is commemorative? I don't know. My first dollar, sort of thing. I don't know. Therein lies the rub. The 7 years ago, the forger Drew Mission sensed a trap and put the stamp in a frame. I do not debate this, but this begs the question: why, 7 years later, did he use that stamp on the night of the murder? Surely you don't mean to suggest that Mr. Mission simply forgot? He put the murder weapon in a frame on his desk for 7 years and forgot? You expect us to believe he sprang the trap on himself? What?
While I admit this is all quite shocking myself, it does seem highly unlikely that he would fall afoul of a trap that had been sitting on his desk for 7 years.
Apollo? I don't think we're winning anymore. I'm glad to see we're all back in the real world now. Welcome back to reality. We've been waiting for you.
Objection!
Okay, and how do you explain the poison stamp that was in this envelope? The poisoned stamp? Where exactly is this poisoned stamp again? Have you brought it to court for us? Is the poisoned stamp in the room with us right now? Ah. I see no proof that such a thing ever existed.
Objection!
What about the etroquinine residue, huh? Oh, I agree. That does seem to be etroquinine residue. But her forehead, it's certainly no stamp. Huh. Yeah, but even if your precious poison stamp did exist, Drew Misham never would have used it. That is all. I believe we come to a conclusion. Again. Apollo, were we wrong the whole time? I can't believe it. The poison traces match up. Can't be coincidence.
I'd like to bring some closure to this issue sometime this year. Mr. Justice,
Yes, Your Honor.
let's review the facts and see where we stand. 7 years ago, Drew Misham received a red envelope. There were traces of the poison etroquinine on the document inside that envelope. A similar trace was also found at the crime scene on this tiny picture frame. The defense has indicated the possibility of a yellow envelope, an envelope that left the scene of the crime with the poison stamp on it. Yes, but even if this envelope contained a poison stamp, and Drew Misham, knowing this, put it in a frame, he never would have used that stamp. I'm afraid you're right, which means there's a fatal flaw in the defense's case. I've been on the wrong track this whole time, I'm sure of it. The traces of etroquinine, the envelope, the frame, and Drew Misham's mysterious death. They're all connected somehow. Well, Mr. Justice, do you have a conclusion for us? The defense stands by its case, Your Honor. We've seen that the logical outcome of the evidence makes no sense, which means that one of our clues must be a fake. Fake clue? Fascinating. And if we find this fake, your wild fantasies will prove quite reasonable, yeah? The fake clue that's thrown us off the poison trail is none other than the red envelope, the frame, Drew Misham? The fake clue. Snack? Good heck. I have to snack while I think about this? How am I gonna snack? What even is food? I'm gonna grab Fig Bar one moment while I think about what this fake clue could be. What could it be? Alright, so. Yeah, B, you gotta refill your water bottles, okay? Alright, so talking this through. The red envelope, I don't believe is fake because that's the whole basis for us saying that a stamp was there. The frame is the thing that we're not, well, the frame is the thing with the worst part of the story attached to it. Because you don't frame your murder weapon. You might frame a thing that reminds you of $100,000 you made. But you don't frame something someone was trying to kill you with, especially if you leave the poison on it. Like, I don't know whether that counts as the frame being. Well, no, the frame is still the frame. The fake clue is the guy himself. I don't believe anything we said about Drew's reaction to any of this. The red envelope was indeed the red envelope. The frame was indeed the frame. The whole narrative about Drew Mission and all this is wrong. That's what I'm going for. The victim was a fake clue? Oh, I'm afraid I don't understand.
I'll explain. You have an envelope, a frame, and a mug linked by poison. That all makes sense. What doesn't make sense is the victim himself.
Objection!
Congratulations. You've completely lost me. So the fake evidence is none other than the master of fake himself, the forger. It makes a good story, I'll give you that.
The fake clue, fakes, forgeries. Ah! I know that face. That's the I just had an idea face. I don't know if I'm right. I'm going with it anyway. What if our forger is the fake?
Come again?
7 years ago, our forger sniffed a trap and stepped aside. 7 years passed. Now the forger stumbles into that very same trap and dies. Why?
That's what I want to know.
Because the forger was killed. Was a fake. The gasp. They replaced the forger. Well, bark, bark, bark.
Here we are again. The victim was a fake?
One forger smelled the trap. One forger fell into the trap. That's two forgers, and one of them was a fake.
Order, order, order. Do you think we would have noticed if someone else died? I mean, he was a recluse. We don't know what happened to the... Was it Vera the whole time? While they're lying here in their secluded area, both of them never able to leave. Was Vera also a forger? Involved in the bark, bark, bark? Bark. Order, order, order. So you were telling us that Drew Mission, the victim, was a fake? Well, if he was the fake, who was the real forger? You'd better not be claiming there was some kind of switcheroo. I'm afraid you're going to have to back up your story. Mr. Justice, show us just who the real Drew Mission was.
If Drew Mission wasn't the real forger, there's only one other person it could have been. Understood, Your Honor. Forger Drew Mission was himself a forgery. The real forger was Vera? Is that better? Alternatively, it's him, but I don't think it's him. It was Phoenix Wright. Imagine it being Phoenix Wright.
Take that!
There can be only one explanation, really. The real identity of forger known as Drew Mission is none other than his only daughter, Vera Mission.
Order, order, order. Mr. Justice.
God, need more water for that, heck.
Mr. Justice, this is going out on a limb, even for you.
I kinda agree. I mean, Vera? A forger? Let's consider it before you write it off entirely. If you look at the paintings in the studio, one fact becomes quite clear. Forgery had been taking place in that studio for quite some time. Forger wasn't caught in that trap 7 years ago. This could only mean that the one who was caught in the trap wasn't the forger.
Well, actually, that does make a certain kind of sense.
What?
Forgering went on for a while. Forger wasn't caught 7 years ago. When it was caught, it wasn't the forger. Okay, sure. Well, actually, that does make a certain kind of sense. One more thing. Only 2 sets of fingerprints were found in the forger's studio. Drew Misham's and Vera Misham's. If we know that Drew Misham wasn't the forger, that leaves only one possibility by process of elimination. The forger was Vera Misham. Well, Apollo never afraid to throw his defendant under the bus. Fascinating. Vera Misham? You've been paying attention to the trial so far? Let's just ask her and be done with it, shall we? Who are you? Who is the forger Drew Misham? Was that an expression of emotion I saw on her face? She's staring holes into Prosecutor Gavin's face. I'm used to being stared at by Fräuleins, believe me. Though they usually talk to me too. Tell us, were you the one who forged those works of art? Yes. Huh? So the forger, Drew Misham, was you? Yes, it was me. What? What? The court was in an uproar. It wasn't coming down. We had to break for a 10-minute recess. To be continued. Right now. So that's what that means? Continue on. Avanti. October 8, 1:24 p.m. District Court, Defendant Lobby number 6. Okay. So where exactly does this leave us, Apollo? Well, the Drew Misham who was killed wasn't Drew Misham the forger, basically. Fräulein, an unmarried woman? Yes. It's like Miss in English, or was. I hear it's not used as much anymore. I don't know. I am not very well trained on German. My German textbook was 100 years old. Anyway, wasn't Drew Misham the forger, basically? Huh? Well then, who was he? Well, he was actually doing her nails. So, you really made those forgeries? Yes, for father. I know it was wrong. Did you tell us how it happened? My father was a painter. I loved painting ever since I was a child. One day, father saw it in me. He saw that I had a talent. Talent? For making forgeries? How should I say it? It was not only paintings I made. Even the materials, I could make anything. Anything? You should come work for the Right Anything Agency. Father was so proud, and I so happy. But in the end, I was making those forgeries. I've never had a good constitution, nor
personality. Oh, okay. I'm sitting here trying to work out what that drawing is. Is that a sad face with a really large teardrop descending from an eye, perhaps? I've never had a good constitution nor personality. I know very little of the world outside my door. Now, because of me, Father is... Do you know about this red envelope? I remember that envelope. It was some time ago. So you were already you were already creating your works back then? I started when I was only 12 years old. So the one who figured out the stamp was poisoned, that was... Mr. Justice, it's time. To the courtroom, please. All right, I have time. Wait, Vera, just one more thing, please. Those 3 paintings in the studio. I painted those as part of my work. Right. See, we checked them out and saw what was underneath. We saw the rough sketches underneath the 3 finished paintings. You see... Mr. Justice. Yes? Father, he knew of you. Of both of you. Your late father? He was watching, gathering information. All about the Wright and Company law offices. But lately we're not doing just law. Yes, you do tricks, gags to amuse, and play piano. Well, they're not really gags. Yet when your father heard you had resumed the legal business, how pleased he was. Who was Mr. Misham? How am I supposed to know? What if he was Daddy's daddy? Judging from the relative ages involved, I'd say it's highly unlikely. Things are already confusing enough with all these daddies running around. Like... We know that the victim's daughter, Vera, was the forger. What does this mean for the case? Guess we're about to find out. October 8, 1:36 p.m. District Court, courtroom number 3. So many daddies. Court is now back in session. Yes, we played Dream Daddy a little while ago. Vera seems pretty tense. She's practically chewing her fingernails clean off. Perhaps you could begin by telling us how it all worked. How did you set up this Drew Misham forger persona? Here's that stare again. She's drilling more holes into his head. I know it's hard for you, but hey, he's a handsome guy. What's hard, Mike? Very well, miss, if you would. Did you really make those detestable forgeries? Perhaps you'd rather answer my question? Were you the one who painted that painting? The remarkably similar one? Yes. I painted it, yes. Father praised me quite highly for it. Who did you pursue, Brain? So, she was the one who made the forgeries. Yet she did not wish to reveal the truth of their operation. So the victim was a stand-in, a decoy. To the world at large, he was the forger, not her. Why does the world at large know that... bark. Brian? What? The world at large didn't know he was a forger. who is secretly a forger.
I've done a bad thing. I have, haven't I?
Regardless, we need a little more information. About, for instance, this. Huh. You have seen this before, yeah?
Yes. It was in the desk drawer.
Very well, you may proceed with your testimony. Tell us everything you know about this envelope. Witness testimony. The red envelope. Give me a second. I need to blow my nose here. Oink. Oink.
Well, that was singularly ineffective. All right.
The red envelope.
I created things and Father sold them. This envelope came after my first work. That was other than a painting. Father handled the deal, all of it. I received the stamp that was in that envelope. It was after that job that we moved to the current studio.
There certainly wasn't much of great interest in your testimony. Not that the witness realizes it. Very well, please begin the cross-examination.
Right, okay. I need more information about this forger. This Drew mission. Cross-examination.
The red envelope.
I created things and Father sold them.
Hold it!
So, these things you are making, you mean paintings identical to other paintings, right? The closer they were, the happier Father was. I was happy too.
Still, you're quite young now. When did you begin this work?
My first painting sold when I was 12.
Your Honor.
Your Honor, she had no idea what she was doing was illegal.
Objection!
Easy there, little attorney. You're not here to defend her for the crime of forgery. True. Please tell us more about this envelope. This envelope that may very well have killed your father.
All right. This envelope came after my first work that was other than a painting.
Hold it!
By other than a painting, you mean you'd only done paintings up to that point? Yes. But Father had a realization. He noticed my talent extended to making things other than paintings.
For instance?
For instance, a letter someone had written, or a fingerprint left upon a cup, or a signature on a document, a seal upon a letter.
None of this makes you sound very innocent at all. And the $100,000 promised in this letter was the start. The beginning of a new industry for Drew Mission. A new industry? The creation of items to be used in criminal proceedings. Forging evidence, in other words. Uh-oh.
Father handled the deal, all of it.
Hold it!
So you didn't know how the things you were making are being used?
I enjoy painting very much. I think I understand. The Fräulein has lived in an unusual little world. Can you tell us what happened to the papers that were in this envelope? Father signed them and sent them back, I believe. Did he follow the instructions? Send to the enclosed envelope with the enclosed stamp?
This is a rather important answer. A rather important matter. Give your answer some thought.
I received the stamp that was in that envelope.
Hold it!
What do you mean you received it? Did I do something wrong? You didn't use that stamp because it was dangerous, correct? Deadly poison, on the back, atroquinine.
Objection!
A moment, Herr Forehead. You can't force an answer upon the witness. Now then, perhaps you would tell me, Fräulein Vera? Why did you receive this stamp?
Is something wrong?
It was beautiful.
Ah, you mean it was one of those commemorative stamps?
Yes, I think it was. So, you didn't know about the poison? Measurements. Were they all signed? I guess not.
So the trap failed by chance, by mistake, thanks to this commemorative stamp. Quite a close call.
It was after that job that we moved to the current studio.
Hold it!
You mean you moved to where the current Drew studio is? Yes, we saw very few people there. I began drawing picture books.
This single job had tied them to the criminal underworld. I think Mr. Misham wished to reduce their visibility to the world at large.
When we had to meet someone for some reason, Father posed as the creator of the work.
So that was the real essence of the artist Drew Misham. You did the work, and he supplied the face. So, you really didn't know anything, did you? You had no idea how much danger you were in.
Yeah.
Apparently not. About this commemorative stamp. Could you tell us more about it?
It was very pretty, and more than that,
Yes?
it was a picture of people I liked at the time.
Is this something new? Apparently, we've got some cross-examination yet ahead of us. If you would be so kind as to continue your testimony, Fräulein.
This stamp was a picture of my favorite magicians, so I kept it. Oh no! The magicians, which have been off stage for 7 years?
That would be something, wouldn't it? Talking about forging seals. Like,
Hold it!
magicians.
I love mysterious things. I always have. even though she fainted when she saw Mr. Hat. You're confusing mysterious with freaky. Father took me when I was very young. It was a great magic show. I loved it so much. See? Isn't magic great? Fine, great, yeah, sure. No need to get all excited. But the magic troupe we saw disbanded soon after. I was quite sad. Did she just say what I think she said? Magic troupe? Now where have I heard that before? The red envelope came after she'd completed her first job. It makes it a letter from her client, whoever wanted a forgery made. Apollo? Close. We just have to piece together the parts. A deadly weapon in a red envelope. And the path it took to take Drew Misham's life. I created things in Father's... Okay, so... Stamp. Job in its parent studio. Stamp was a picture of my favorite magicians. Do I present magicians here? I don't just present magicians here, do I? My favorite magicians. Yeah, I believe I do.
Objection!
Those magicians you liked, was it this bunch? Apollo, they're not a bunch.
I see. Still, I have to wonder. Why include a commemorative stamp like that in a business letter?
Good question. Well, pretty stamps are always better, and you can't beat true grammar.
But the whole murder plan was a failure because of it.
Was he trying to mail Valent Grammary? And is that why the reporter was out there talking to him? Bark, 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 bark.
But the whole murder plan was a failure because of it. Ironic, don't you think, Prosecutor Gavin? Prosecutor Gavin. Grammary.
What's with Gavin?
Might I ask just one question of this witness? In your testimony just now, you stated this was your first work that was other than a painting.
Please tell me, what exactly did you make? Can I ask why? No. Answer the question. Now.
Prosecutor Gavin, you're usually not the one whose volume concerns me.
Yes, it is unbecoming of me. I apologize. But I must know. Please, Ms. Misham, tell me. It was a book. A single page in a book. A book. Please be more specific. It was a handwritten book, like a diary. He knows. He knows it. No, I don't know. What's wrong with Prosecutor Gavin? He looks like he just saw a ghost.
Ms. Misham, not Fräulein. This book. Was there a picture of a silk hat on the back cover? Yes or no? Hmm. How did you know?
Objection!
Prosecutor Gavin, the defendant is answering all of your questions. Stop badgering her. He's told you nothing, has he? Your soiled, sullied mentor. Nothing?
Sully, who?
Phoenix, right. Who else?
Daddy?
He never told you about the trial 7 years ago? About how he came to lose his attorney's badge? It was a certain piece of evidence that decided his fate, you know. A certain diary. On the back, it bore the mark of a silk hat.
What? Phoenix Wright tossed out of the profession by false evidence? And the forger who made that evidence? Is this girl standing right in front of me? Vera, you must tell us. The evidence you made was used in a trial 7 years ago. Who asked Drew Bisham, you, to forge that evidence? For all of our sakes, who was it? It was handled by her father. We only met once. You met the client? Well, who was it? It was... What's going on with Vera? She's staring at Prosecutor Gavin's face again. Oh, his brother? Yes, what? Is there something about me? I remember clearly. Remember who gave me the book? The diary. Was it? Vera. No. The devil? The devil? Defendant Vera Mission. Condition: unconscious. Examiner's diagnosis: acute atroquinine poisoning. This ends the recording of the trial for the murder of Drew Mission. Vera Mission was, during the trial, poisoned by an unknown assailant. The dosage was just under the lethal amount, sparing the defendant's life. She is currently in intensive care and is not to be disturbed for any reason. A very simple case, at first glance, until it finally began to show its true colors. The long road to the truth takes us to the record of another trial. In some ways, that was the starting point of it all. And that is where we must go. To find the whole truth. To be continued. And we're gonna continue continuing. Save your current process, sure. Overwrite and save, yes. Lock in those poor choices. Trial 7 years ago. Showdown time. I lost.
It's only a game of poker. A game I played for a long time, and only lost twice. Who was the first? The man I killed, of course. Oh, that's his dad! Well, it seems I found the partner I was looking for all along. Trucy's dad, I mean. Over a game of cards? Why, yes, over a game of cards. Not gonna pretend I know who is who. That was how we first met, 7 years ago. 7 years earlier, Phoenix Wright's final trial. April 19, 9:27 a.m. District Court, Defendant Lobby Number 2. Okay, it's been a long time since I felt like such a rookie. Gotta try and relax. Good morning, Mr. Enigmar. I mean, you pronounce it. I'm sorry to have sprung this on you so suddenly. I received the files from your previous attorney only yesterday. Honestly, I'm not entirely sure I'm prepared. I understand I am asking the impossible of you. Yes, well, you haven't really told me what happened yet. All we did was play cards. And that was enough. Actually, it wasn't. Trust me. Morning, Daddy. I'm so glad you came. You okay, Daddy? They picking on you? I'm fine as always. This old boy is here to help me after all. That's young man to you. Good morning. That's a cute outfit you have on. Thanks. My first show's today after all. Oh, I'm sure it is. Well, what the heck is she talking about? Oh, old boy? Me? Look what he's started. Here. It seems fate clock will make me wait a little longer. At least only less than 10 swift minutes remain. To all those who have supported me in my life's work, I give thanks. Farewell, Magnify Grammary. Do. How terrible. Twist TSF. Okay. Here. Yes. What's this? I don't know. I just got it over there in the hall. They told me to give it to the old boy in the blue suit with the spiky hair. They said it was really important. What's this? A memo for you or some such? Not from the looks of it. What is this? Looks like a page from someone's diary. I'll give it a read later. Notebook page added to the court record. Oh, I have a whole shenanigan going on in my existence. Hold on, I have to check on its existence. Crime scene photo. Body found in hospital room, shot in the head. Oh, poor fella. His clown was also shot in the head? This doll over here? That's, certainly a goings-on. Magnifies autopsy report. Cause of death, single gunshot to the head. Estimated time of death, 11 to 11:30 p.m. Victim's name, Magnify Grammary, age 67, male. Estimated time of death, April 13, between 11 and 11:30 p.m. Cause of death, loss of blood from bullet wound. Note, malignant tumor found in victim's liver. Okay, and then the letter, which we read out loud already. Okay. Well, how do you feel about the trial today? We'll get through it somehow. Incidentally, the prosecutor today is a new guy, I hear. An easy win then, yes?
They're calling him a true thoroughbred in the history of the prosecutor's office. Of course, there's one of those every year.
The switching of attorneys just before the trial. I know it is a different situation I put you in. But allow me to say one thing, Mr. Wright.
Yes.
They will not be able to pronounce me guilty today. So do your best, but do not worry.
First time a defendant's ever given me a pep speech. I'll do what I can.
I see you do not understand. You see, it will be impossible for them to declare a verdict.
Impossible?
Yes. Isn't that right, Trucy?
Yep, you bet, Daddy. My first look at the case was only yesterday, and the information I was given was a tad bit lacking, to be honest. Still, I'll do what I can, for their sake.
I believe the curtains will be lifting any time now. I am in your capable hands, Mr. Wright.
My client is Shady Enigma, known to the world as Zach Garamary. A wildly popular magician, star of Troop Garamary. His mentor, Magnify Garamary, was a rare breed of magician. He single-handedly ushered in a golden age of stage magic until he was shot dead. And Zach Garamary is the suspect.
April 19, 10 a.m. District Court, Courtroom number 7. Court is now in session for the trial of Shady Enigma. The defense is ready, Your Honor. Is the prosecution ready?
I was just thinking, is this what all the fuss is about? Bit of a buzzkill, really.
Buzzkill? Is this some new kind of crime?
One of the worst. This is a trial, yeah? Where are the sweaty palms, the pounding hearts? Gaviner's concert got 10 times the thrill this gig's got.
Who were you again?
Clavia Gavin. I came to get the party started. Legally, yeah?
Gavin? Defense attorney Christoph Gavins.
Figures my bro's more famous in this part of town.
Clavia Gavin, lead singer for the mega hit band The Gaviners. You're out of your league, rock boy.
I know what you're thinking. You're out of your league, rock boy. True, my debut single, 13 Years Hard Time for Love, went platinum overnight. But that's just a hobby to me compared to this, yeah?
Talkative, aren't you? I like your affected Euro rock accent, by the way.
It's far too late in the game to start mentioning someone's accent. I'm just getting warmed up, Herr Attorney Wright.
Perhaps you would be so kind as to fill us in on the case?
Achtung, baby. Time to call on the opening act. What was his name again? Ah, yes. Detective Gumshoe. Hit it. Gumshoe. Yes. And you are?
Hey, you were the one who called me up here, sir. Name's Dick Gumshoe. I'm a homicide detective down at the precinct.
Detective Gumshoe, long time no see.
You!
Huh? Me?
Today's the day, pal. Today I win and you lose. I got confidence in my testimony today, see?
What? You normally lack confidence in your testimony?
He lacks confidence in everything. Herr Detective, this is my stage. Can the antics.
Ah? All this hey-youing and stuff. And I could care less about your history together. Very well, Detective Gumshoe, if you would. Please tell us about the case at hand. It happened 6 days back in a room at the General Hospital. The facts are as simple as they come. Here's a crime scene. The victim was a patient asleep in a hospital bed. The killer comes in, puts a pistol to his forehead, and bam, lights out. Them's the facts.
Not so long ago, the victim, Magnify Grammary, was a famous man. He had the entire country under his magical spell, as it were.
Turtle! Oh, balanced on his nose. And the elephant and the cat too, but don't care, the turtle!
Ah, yes, the great magician. He retired years ago, though. Say the name Magnify to one of my generation, and you'd be lucky to get a blank stare. Yes, well, I'm sure the youngsters today know his disciples even better. I dare say Troop Grammary has made quite a name for themselves. Anyhow, the retired Magnify's been in the hospital for the last year. What was it? Ball ignorant tutor or something? Doing something to his liver, I think. Yeah. Malignant tumor, perhaps. In other words, he had liver cancer. He had only 3 months left to live, in fact. Actually, he had a lot fewer than that. Magnify's chart added the court record. Diagnosed with a malignant tumor, given 3 months. To review that. Patient's name, Magnify Grammary, age 67, male. Notes. Malignant tumor in liver has progressed to final stage with no hope of recovery. Patient has 3 months to live. Patient has chronic diabetes, requires regular insulin. Not looking forward to being old and dying. The facts do seem simple enough, but something's not right. The victim was already climbing a 3-month stairway to heaven. Why not wait for him to knock, knock, knock on heaven's door? Why shoot him? I wouldn't have put it quite so lyrically, but I wouldn't have put it quite so lyrically, but it's true. Why make the effort to commit murder when the victim was about to die? Incidentally, the victim had a serious case of diabetes. Diabetes? In fact, he was about to shoot up with insulin when he was shot with a pistol. The syringe was found at the crime scene. Chronic diabetes and cancer. As much as it pains me to say it, the victim was clearly at the end of his life. Small syringe added to the court record. I believe the question before us is clear then. Small syringe, used for administering insulin shots, has been washed and shows no sign of use. The needle, the nodule, no signs of use, but it's also empty. I always hated getting shots. I guess Magnify was giving himself the insulin shots. There's no way I could do that. Ugh. Wait, if Magnify used this to inject his insulin, why are there no traces of it having been used? Something to keep in mind. Yeah. Oh, has been washed. And shows no signs of use. Anyway, right. I believe the question before us is clear then. Why did the killer have to shoot this dying man? What reason could he have had? Euthanasia? No. Very well, Detective. Perhaps you can enlighten us as to the circumstances of the shooting.
Yes, sir. Witness testimony. The circumstances. Actually, the victim kind of ordered the defendant to do him in. A few days before it happened, the victim sent a letter ordering his own murder. The defendant did what was asked of him and shot the old man in the forehead. The bullet was fired from the pistol found at the scene, no doubt about it. And the pistol definitely belonged to the old man, sir.
What? You're saying the victim ordered his own shooting? Those are the facts. I have here the letter in question.
To my beloved student, Zach, to you I entrust the task of lowering my life's curtain. Come on the 13th, 11:05 p.m. I will ready a gun with which you will shoot one shot square in the forehead. You cannot refuse, and we both know the reason why. Magnify Grammary.
Huh. Those are the facts. I have here the letter in question.
Pretend I didn't just read that already.
Magnifies letter added to the court record. Letter asking Zach to shoot him. Very unusual indeed. Do we get to examine more than that? No, just what we saw. Okay. Very unusual indeed. Although, could such a thing as a letter really cause one to pull a trigger, I wonder? I believe the answer to that question can be found at the end of the letter. You cannot refuse, and we both know the reason why. Detective Gumshoe, can you explain this to the court?
Unfortunately, even the defendant won't say a peep about that bit, sir. One thing bothers me about this. Why didn't he just say 11? Why have him come at 11:05 without some specific reason? The devil is in the details, Herr Attorney. The devil is who killed Vera Mission 7 years later.
Well, was there some reason?
As it turns out, there was. Every night for a half hour starting at 11 o'clock, the victim, Magnify Grammary, was given an IV. An IV?
There it is in the picture, off to the side of the bed.
At 11 o'clock, a doctor would come to set up the IV. 30 minutes later, he would come back for the empty bag. This happened every night without fail. So that was the only time they could meet without the chance of an untimely interruption. During his IV.
Very well, shall we begin? Mr. Wright, your cross-examination, if you would.
What's this reason he couldn't refuse, I wonder? He could have at least mentioned it to me. That would be great, wouldn't it? Cross-examination. The circumstances. Okay, so. The circumstances that we're actually having are the end of stream. So we'll call it here for today. Oink!